I'd like to convene the Ways and Means Committee, and my watch has got us starting a minute early, and that one's got us starting a minute late on the wall, so I guess the compromise is in between. But we are convened, and we do have a quorum present. The minutes are in our folders. Representative Lilly.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move the minutes from our previous meeting, please.
Okay, that motion is before us. Any discussion? Seeing none, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The first bill up this morning is House File 1733 by Representative Poppe. And Representative Poppe, would you care to move the division report?
I would like to move the division report, the Agriculture and Food Finance and Policy Division report on House File 1733.
Okay, the division report is before us. Any discussion? Seeing none, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Representative Poppe, would you care to move the bill?
I would like to move House File 1733 as amended be recommended to be placed on the general register.
Okay, the motion is before us. Would you like to explain the bill and then take the amendments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. Yes. So House File 1733 is an agriculture policy bill. There are two provisions that have raised some concern and do have proposed amendments, but otherwise the bill is largely technical. It's clarifying language, for the most part non-controversial. Many of the provisions came forward last year in ag policy, so that's what the bill is. There are no fiscal components. Initially, when the bill was routed through Ways and Means, there were a couple of fiscal aspects to the bill, but those have been removed, and there's no fiscal impact. It's strictly a policy bill at this point.
Okay, then, members, we should go to the amendments, and Representative Hamilton, you have both amendments, I guess. The first one is A16. Is that the one you want to take first?
Yes, that's fine, Mr. Chairman. I move the A16 amendment. And Mr. Chairman, what this does, and members, is it deletes Section 1 of the bill. And we heard in testimony, we had Department of Agriculture come up. What the language does is delegates the authority to cities of the first class as it pertains to pesticides. And when asked the Department of Agriculture if they could actually do this, they were unclear whether or not the EPA would grant them the authority to do this. And again, Mr. Chairman, I believe the Department of Agriculture is capable of doing this like they have in the past, so I ask for the support on the A16 amendment.
Okay, any discussion on the amendment? Representative Dabney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and members. I would oppose the A16 amendment. This is a compromise that's been a number of years in the making. It is permissive. It does not require the Department of Ag to work on a delegation agreements. They delegate other authorities to the cities of the first class already. Restaurant inspections, public health issue, food inspections, public health issues. So I can't speak to the EPA because I'm a state legislator and not a congressperson, but I think this should continue to move forward, and if there are issues to be fixed, we can fix them. But I think this is an opportunity for the state and local authorities to work more closely together, and that's a positive. So I'd ask for a no vote on the A16. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further discussion? Representative Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It does look like this will require or provide permission for the cities to establish a fee too. So if indeed this is going to be a policy-only bill, I think the amendment is very much in order because this is a tax bill at this point, Mr. Chair, and we don't want to have a tax increase in this bill, and there is one. So I support the amendment.
Representative Hamilton, did you want to do the conclusion part? Because we've got you on the list.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And it was brought up.
There are a couple of other people that want to comment, but
Okay, well, I just would like to address, it was brought up about restaurant and food inspections. Mr. Chairman, if you recall, just a couple of years ago, we actually had to take that, we being the Department of Agriculture, actually had to take that authority back because they were not meeting their statutory requirements as it pertained to food safety. So that's a perfect example on why we should support this amendment and take it out of the bill.
hey, Representative Markwart?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I don't have the House rule with me, but fees are not taxes, nor do they have to go to taxes if it's used for a direct or indirect reimbursement of something. So there is a rule, and I can go up and get that quickly, too, if we need be.
My thoughts are the same as yours. I do have the rule book in my folder, but you are correct in your summation of the rule, in my take on it. Representative Driscowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'd remind you, both you, Mr. Chair, and Chair Markwart, that our statutes do say very clearly that a fee is a tax, and this is a tax in the bill, regardless of what the rules say in terms of where bills have to go. Statutes call a fee a tax, and it's very clear. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
We're checking on the rule 4.10. And I think if I recall, the last sentence in that rule says that a fee is not a tax under the House rules. Oh, here. For purposes of this paragraph, tax excludes any fee, charge, exaction, or assessment, a primary purpose of which is to recover direct or indirect costs incurred by the state or other governmental entity, or as a payment for benefits received. So my take would be the same as what Representative Markwart was summarizing as well. In terms of where the bill would need to be re-referred. But at any rate, we have Representative Torkelson next.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just speak in favor of the amendment. You know, those of us that use pesticides all over the state depend on the label, number one, and that is produced by the federal government. And then the statewide consistent interpretation of those labels is very important as we go from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. So I'd speak strongly in favor of the Hamilton Amendment.
Okay, any further discussion? Well, seeing none, all those in favor of the A16 amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Motion defeated. Representative Hamilton, you have a second amendment, the A17 amendment.
Correct, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to move the A17 amendment, and this deletes Section 18 of the bill. And what this section of the bill does is that if a Cervidae farm herd tests positive for chronic wasting disease, the entire herd must be euthanized at the owner's expense. And that's where we have heartburn with this language. We do have precedents. It goes on to say unless there's state funding available. However, there's no language or no funding in this bill to address it. And we do have precedents when it comes to bovine tuberculosis or avian influenza, et cetera, to have some indemnity language and or herd buyout language in this. And for that reason, Mr. Chairman, I would like support on this amendment as well. And I know Chair Poppe has said that she'll continue to work on this, and I know she will. And as far as being able to find the language that we all can rally behind, I believe, but unfortunately, it's not in this bill. And I've seen where policy bills have been signed into law and finance bills have not in some cases. And therefore, I would ask that we would remove this section and work on it in the agriculture finance omnibus bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, the motion is before us. Any discussion? Representative Poppe, any comments?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I would oppose this amendment as well, and I certainly am working on trying to resolve this issue. Chronic wasting disease is something that is impacting us throughout the state. Southern Minnesota has been hit, southeastern Minnesota. We do have deer farmers in our state, and we have deer hunters in our state, and we have lots of deer in our state, and we need to be able to deal with this issue. So this is something that we wanted to have in the policy bill, understanding that, yes, in the ag finance bill, we will be addressing this issue.
Okay, any further discussion? Representative Skowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to express my disappointment that we see this particular provision in this bill. This is an anti-agriculture provision. I can't imagine somebody raising deer and continuing with this provision written into law with the risk that they would have to euthanize their entire herd and take that loss. I certainly can't imagine anyone starting up a deer farming operation. I can't even imagine people continuing with that risk hanging over their heads. So I don't know how this could be looked at as a pro-agriculture provision, definitely an anti-agriculture provision. It stains the bill, and I'd ask members to vote for the amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, then, all those in favor of the A17 amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Motion defeated. We now have the motion by Representative Poppe that House File 1733 as amended be recommended to be placed on the general register. Any further discussion? Representative Hamilton.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Representative Poppe has done a wonderful job putting the bill together. And without those two provisions that we tried to remove from the bill, this would have been a fantastic bill, one that we could rally behind and support. Unfortunately, with those two provisions left in it, I cannot support it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further discussion? Representative Garofalo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And as of yesterday, not only for this bill, but also the remaining 4 bills, there were no fiscal notes, and I just want to confirm with you and with staff that none of the 5 bills we're hearing today have any fiscal impact.
We can double check with the staff. Mr. Marks?
Mr. Chair, Representative Garofalo, yes, we believe that's correct.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion on the amendment, or on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members.
And let's see, the next bill, where's my agenda? Representative Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. First off, I'll move the division report for House File 1974.
Okay, the motion is before us. Any discussion? Seeing none, then, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Representative Nelson.
Members, House File 1974 is basically a cleanup bill. It's,
Representative Nelson, the next motion is you have to
oh,
move. the bill.
Mr. Chair, I move the House File 1974 as amended be recommended to be placed on the general register.
Okay, the motion is before us, and if you'd care to explain the bill?
And Mr. Chair, again, if you look at the bill, it's a thick bill, a lot of pages, but it's basically a pretty simple bill. It just basically changes, updates language that's in statute, antiquated term warrant that's through the bill, and it replaced that through most of the bill with payment or something similar to that. In the State Government Finance Committee, they was pointed out there was a few places where their warrant was still left in, and we went back and looked at it, and all those places, it makes sense to leave those in those places. So that's why there is still some term warrants throughout the bill. The bill also in Section 2 or Section 4 of the bill on page 2, it expands what they can be used for advance payments, like a newspaper subscription or something like that. Sometimes you pay those ahead. and you save money by doing that. This allows the Department of Administration to be able to do that. If it makes sense to pay something ahead that they're going to be using and save money by doing that, it gives them the authority to do that. On page 4, section 9 of the bill, it deletes a reference to the former state treasurer. We no longer have a state treasurer, and it just moves that into the Department of Administration. And if you look in the law books behind you there, that section about state treasurer, right now that's in there, it refers you to the same statute that this bill is putting it in. Section 6 directs the commissioner to establish internal guidelines along with the attorney general about collecting state debt, and it also has procedures in there talking about declaring debt uncollectible. And there was an amendment we took up in state government finance from Representative Albright that basically makes them report back to the legislature if they're letting or if they're writing off debt that's more than $10,000. And basically that's the bill. Pretty simple technical bill.
Okay, and Representative Garofalo, I was reminded by staff there was a fiscal note on this one in the packets, and it does show, as Mr. Marks pointed out, no fiscal impact.
Mr. Chairman, my apologies. I was not as elegant in my original question as I should have been. I meant to say that there was no fiscal impact for the fiscal notes that were online. So thank you.
Okay, we try to stay on top of things, so thank you. Representative Garofalo, we have you on the list as well. Did you have your hand up to comment on the bill?
No, just that there's no fiscal impact and looks like
Oh,
it's
that
in
was
balance.
that. Okay, so
Thank you.
we're all set. Okay, any further discussion on the bill? Representative Albright.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Nelson, I know we discussed this in state government finance, but I just want to remind myself, did we have a conversation about how much debt or uncollected debt the agencies have reported in recent years?
Representative Nelson.
Mr. Chair, we had a discussion about making a report for that, and we accept that amendment. I did not get any numbers from them about how much unreported debt we've had in the past. I know there was one big one a couple years back that raised some eyebrows, and I think that's what prompted the amendment that we put on in the state government finance, to make sure there's a report back to the legislature of any debt over $10,000.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, then the Nelson motion before us is that House File 1974 as amended be recommended to be placed on the general register. Any further discussion? Seeing none, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Representative Nelson?
And Mr. Chair, I'll move the division report for House File 1975.
Okay, the motion is before us to adopt the division report. Any discussion? Seeing none, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Representative Nelson, care to move the bill?
Mr. Chair, I'll move House File 1975 as amended. There was no amendment to it, as be recommended to place on the general register.
There was an amendment in the division, so.
Okay, as
you would
amended,
include
as amended, be placed
as
on the general
amended,
register, yeah.
In the motion.
Yes.
Okay, so if you'd care to explain the bill.
Mr. Chair and members, this is a very short and simple bill. And while it looks that way, it has very significant impact involved in the procurement to maximize our state value in building and construction projects. It makes an important clarification where there is a clear prohibition currently to the procurement technique called best and final offer. This bill clarifies that the prohibition of a best and final offer applies only to the traditional contracting method we all understand as the lowest responsible bidder. We currently have multiple methods of bidding projects: best value, responsible contractor, and design build. And these involve RFP process, and that involves some negotiating to get to the final price. The current language and statute prohibits the state from using the best and final offer or doing that negotiation. Again, the lowest responsible bidding is the process where the specs are put out, contractors bid it, the lowest bid gets the job, or lowest responsible bid gets the job. By adding this language to the current prohibition, we're able to use the best and final offer procedures to get better value for the state and save money for the state. And that's the bill.
Okay, and again, on this one as well, there is a fiscal note that says there is no fiscal impact in the packet. So any discussion on the bill? Representative Albright.
Mr. Chair, and Chair Nelson, I know that the bill is a simple bill, but I think in terms of emergency acquisition, I'm wondering if, for the benefit of the members of the committee, if you could go into a little more depth in terms of what would constitute an emergency under this law.
I have somebody from the state.
You're welcome, and if you could identify yourself for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Betsy Hayes. I'm the Chief Procurement Officer with the State of Minnesota Department of Administration. Mr. Chair, representatives, to the question regarding what constitutes an emergency, emergency is defined in Minnesota statutes, I believe it's 16C.10. It involves a threat to property, safety, and the functioning of government. That's a paraphrase, but it's a significant life, health, safety event.
Representative Albright, is that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to the testifier. So, declaration of an emergency, so the properties themselves, is it imminent threat, imminent loss? What, can you just unpack that a little bit more for the committee, please?
Mr. Chair, Representative, yes, it would be some significant and imminent would also be a consideration, threat to life, health, or safety. We declare smaller emergencies, for example, recently when pipes burst and there isn't time, for example, to go through a procurement process to protect the safety or the property involved. So that's one example.
Representative Albright.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I know that there doesn't appear to be any fiscal note, but I'm just wondering if there's any cost limits in terms of how these powers are used, in terms of the scope and breadth of some of these projects as they become known to us as an emergency. Is there any guardrails on these?
Ms. Hayes.
Mr. Chair and Representative, there isn't specifically any monetary limit in statute. However, as a matter of policy and practice, we require the agencies to limit the use of emergency authority to address the immediate emergency involved because we're wanting to use a competitive, open process to the extent possible. So we would want the emergency as a matter of proper procedure to just address the immediate, narrowest situation possible.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, then Representative Nelson renews his motion that House File 1975 as amended be recommended to be placed on the general register. Any further discussion? Seeing none, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next bill will be Representative Heinrich, House File 1810. Or 810, excuse me, 810, not 18, 810. And welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And Representative,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the adoption of the Veterans and Military Affairs Finance Policy and Division Report on House File 810.
the motion is before us. Any discussion? Seeing none, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Representative Eklund, would you care to move the bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House File 810 be recommended to be referred to the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration.
The motion is before us, and if you would explain the bill?
Thank you, Chair Carlson and members for hearing House File 810 today. House File 810 authorizes the replacement of the plaque that honors World War I veterans in the State Capitol Mall Court of Honor. The current plaque is dedicated to the 57,413 Minnesotans who served in World War I, who served abroad. However, the plaque omits the 61,084 Minnesotans who served the war effort stateside. This bill requires the Capital Area Architectural and Planning Board to replace the existing plaque with one that honors all 118,497 Minnesotans who served in World War I. The group that submits the design must also furnish and install the new plaque. The fiscal note came back as zero, so there is no cost to the state to do this. I have Mr. Mendel, Paul Mendel, the Executive Director of the Capital Area Architectural and Planning Board, is here to answer any questions. And thank you again for hearing House File 810. I ask for your support on this bill.
Any discussion? Just as a footnote, my grandfather served in World War I and in Europe. There probably are other members of the committee that had a family member that perhaps goes that far back as well. See no further discussion. Representative Eklund renews his motion that House File 810 be recommended to be re-referred to the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration. Any further discussion? Seeing none, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members.
Okay, the next bill is Representative Dettmer, House File 492. Representative Torkelson, would you care to move the bill? And I'm reminded by staff, this came to us from the floor, so there's no division report, so it would be just a motion to move the bill. Representative Torkelson.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House File 492, the first engrossment, be recommended to be placed on the general register.
Okay, the motion is before us. Representative Dettmer.
Thank you, Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. This September 9th will be the third anniversary that took a life of a young girl, and is going to be another tough one for mom and dad. Both mom and dad I had in class when they were in high school, and the father, husband, right now is working at the St. Paul Fire Department. Couldn't be here today. But we had a great hearing in transportation with Chair Hornstein, and appreciate it for that hearing. And this is a great day. It's been a long road to get where we're at. And the parents didn't know where to turn to. They finally turned to me as a legislator. And I said, I can't promise anything, but I think we can do something here so that this would not happen to other parents or other families. The bill makes it a misdemeanor if the vehicle operator violates the traffic or motor vehicle regulations and causes great bodily harm or death unless another penalty is established. The court hearing is also mandated. It is effective August 1, 2019 for acts of commitment on or after that date. And I told Ginger and Katie here that they didn't have to testify, but they wanted to be able to sit in front of the committee, and just like they did in the Transportation Committee. We also have Janet Ryder. Janet Ryder is the Chisago County Attorney who helped put this legislation together, the wording together, so that we'd do the right thing so that this would not happen to other families in the future. Basically what happened, little Brooklyn was killed in a car accident. The other driver went through a stop sign, and when you fill out a report at the scene, there's a little box you're supposed to check if there's a death or a serious injury. That box was not checked, so it kind of fell through the cracks, and the other driver got off with a $135 fine, so and no court appearance. So in this case, it's not going to help the Larson family, but they'll have a peace of mind that it would not happen to other families in the future. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and thank you. And thank you for being here. It's our understanding that you didn't want to testify, but I do want to say welcome. And we have Representative Garofalo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And even though there's no fiscal impact on this, I just, first of all, on behalf of the whole committee, give our condolences on your loss. And Representative Dettmer, thank you for your leadership on this issue. We have a couple of holes in our statute right now where the actions of individuals While they may not be intentional, they result in great harm or the death of other individuals, and this is just one small step we can take to help fix these issues. And Representative Dettmer, thank you again for working on this, and I would hope everyone on the committee supports the bill. Thank you.
And by the way, for information for the members, when I initially said there was not a division report, the Judiciary Division said that since the lead agency, I guess, had been the Supreme Court, that they didn't need to see the bill. Is that, and I'm getting a nod that that's correct. So that's why it'll go directly from committee then to the General Register. So Representative Torkelson renews his motion that House File 492, the first engrossment, be recommended to be placed on the General Register. Any further discussion? Seeing none then, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Representative Dettmer, and thank you for coming. And we will, before we recess, that completes our agenda, but for this morning, a couple of things in the announcement. The referrals from last week are in the packets. And this evening, of course, we'll be taking up the budget resolution. That will be posted shortly. And I did have a conversation with Representative Garofalo last week and indicated prior to posting that he and I would visit a bit about the budget resolution. Amendments to the resolution are due at 4 p.m. As you know, we have a 24-hour rule generally, but we also said that there's sometimes circumstances where we would not be using the 24-hour rule, and we will not be, but if you can have any amendments in by 4 o'clock. And the committee will reconvene in this room 1 hour after the House adjourns. And with that, we are in recess.